Question: how do you know when a team is destined for greatness? Is it a certain mentality, confidence, talent, luck, or is it all of it? Whatever it is, there are some teams who seem bound for the path of destiny. In 2014, two teams fit this description: the New York Rangers and the Los Angeles Kings. And as fate would have it, they would find themselves in a do-or-die overtime in Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Final. The fact that these two teams are even in this position is truly remarkable, because when you look at their journey, the odds suggest that this matchup should have never have happened. With it being double overtime, both these teams have made history to get to this point, but only one can truly fulfill their destiny, while the other ends up on the wrong side of NHL history. Let's go all the way back to the beginning of the 2013-2014 season. Expectations were high for both the Rangers and the Kings. Having coming into the season making the playoffs in 7 of the last 8 years, many expected the Rangers to be one of the premier teams in the Eastern Conference. But due to a coaching change that saw Alain Vigneault replace John Tortorella, the Rangers struggled out of the gates, dropping 7 of their first 10. That poor start made them finish December with a mediocre 18-18-2 record. To add on to the troubles, their star goalie Henrik Lundqvist was set to become a free agent the following season. At 32 years old, Henrik Lundqvist was the Rangers' star. He'd already won a Vezina in 2012, and he's had incredible numbers throughout his years. But the only thing that he didn't have was a Stanley Cup. Despite his contract being a distraction when he was healthy scratched in consecutive games, he and the Rangers eventually agreed to a deal mid-season. Combine that with the entire team as a whole becoming more acquainted with Vigneault's system, they entered the Olympic break with a respectable 32-24-3 record. The Kings, on the other hand, struggled to follow suit. After being dethroned as the defending Stanley Cup champions by Chicago in the 2013 Western Conference Finals, the Kings had a decent 6-3 start to the year. However, they stumbled into the Olympic break, going 2-8-1. It wasn't until the final stretch of the regular season where both of these teams decided to add some key pieces. The Kings grabbed their own weapon by swooping up the 3-time 40-goal scorer in Marian Gaborik. Meanwhile, the Rangers made a major move by sending captain Ryan Callahan and 2 draft picks to Tampa Bay for Martin St. Louis, who, despite being 38, was a cup champion who could produce some much-needed offense for the Rangers. After finishing the regular season on a 12-6-2 run, that earned the Rangers second place in the Metro Division, where they would meet the rival Philadelphia Flyers in the first round of the playoffs. The series was a seesaw battle with the teams swapping wins, but with Game 7 on home ice, the Rangers and Lundqvist shut the door for the opportunity to play Sidney Crosby and the Pittsburgh Penguins in round number 2. Now, after falling into a 3-1 hole against the favored Penguins in the second round, the Rangers were clearly shaken by the news that Martin St. Louis' mother, France, had died suddenly of a heart attack. St. Louis went home for the wake, but returned for Game 5, which the Rangers won decisively 5-1. With the Rangers inspired, Game 6 fell on Mother's Day, and it gave Martin St. Louis the opportunity to do something special.
Stepan gave the pass to the side, all the way back in front, the shot block, rebound, score! Rangers get the first goal, and I believe it's going to be Marty St. Louis. Wouldn't that be something on Mother's Day in New York?
From that point on, the Rangers didn't take a step back. They took Game 6 3-1, and then Game 7 2-1, with Henrik Lundqvist coming up with a monumental 35-save performance. Now, all that stood between them and the Cup final was Carey Price and the Montreal Canadiens. Montreal had swept the Lightning in round 1 and then beat the Big Bad Bruins in 7 games, which saw Price stop 55 of 56 shots in the final 2 games. If there was anyone who could outduel Henrik Lundqvist, it was probably Carey Price. But in the second period of Game 1, a potential break for Chris Kreider would change absolutely everything.
There is Kreider, Yevlin is back, Kreider got away, he missed the net and he takes Price out. Skates and body going in to Carey Price at a high velocity.
With Price clearly shooken up on the play, he would still finish the game with New York coming out on top. However, destiny seemingly aligned with New York yet again, as Price was announced that he would be out for the remainder of the playoffs. The Rangers grabbed the opportunity by the horns and eliminated Montreal in 6, sending them to the Stanley Cup final for the first time in 20 years. On the other side of the battlefield is a Kings team that is familiar with a type of destiny required to win a cup. After becoming the lowest seed in NHL history to win a Stanley Cup in 2012, it looked like it would take a miracle to find that magic once again when they quickly fell 0-3 to the Sharks in the first round. But with a history of playoff demons, LA felt like this was far from over. Slowly and methodically planting the seed of doubt with their in-your-face style of play, the Kings clawed all the way back to make NHL history.
Sends it across for Dustin Brown. Brown is going to catch up to it, and LA is going to join a select group of teams, now just the fourth to ever win a series in 7 games after losing the first 3.
With them becoming only the 4th team in history to complete a reverse sweep to win a series, their prize was getting to face the conference champion Anaheim Ducks, led by Corey Perry and Ryan Getzlaf. After winning the first 2 games in Anaheim, LA dropped 3 straight, only to rally and force another Game 7. Comfortable in these high-pressure games, LA easily won Game 7 6-2 and set up a rematch of the Western Finals and one of the most exhilarating series in NHL history. This series had everything, and in typical LA fashion, it had to go 7 games. After falling down 2-0 in the first period of Game 7, LA wasn't going to quit now. They stormed back to tie the game, but faced even more adversity when Jonathan Quick let in this stinker. For 60 minutes, these two juggernauts at their peak gave everything they had for the chance to compete for Lord Stanley. At every point where LA seemed out, they just would not quit. With the opportunity to become the first team to win 3 Game 7s on the road, an unsung hero would step up for LA.
Puck comes out to Martinez. Martinez with a shot. It's in! The Kings are headed to the Stanley Cup final!
The matchup was officially set. The New York Rangers versus the LA Kings in the Stanley Cup final. Heading into this series, many predicted a low-scoring affair between 2 teams with top 5 goals against averages and future Hall of Fame goalies. But in the end, it was the Kings that held the Stanley Cup experience that likely gave them an edge. However, to start the series, it was the Rangers who looked like the superior team early in Game 1. New York scored their first 2 goals and looked to be in control, but LA was no stranger to being in this position. Of course, they battled all the way back to force overtime, and a Dan Girardi slip-up in his own end would put the puck right into danger and into the back of the net for the Kings to take Game 1. Game 2 was a similar story. The Rangers jumped out to a 2-0 lead and had leads of 3-1 and 4-2. But this LA team just would not die. This time, it's the captain Dustin Brown who would deflect one home between the legs of Henrik Lundqvist to take a 2-0 series lead. With that being followed up by a Jonathan Quick masterclass and shutout in Game 3, LA took a commanding 3-0 series lead. But when you watch the games, this series was much closer than it looked. One bounce in either overtime could have easily had New York up in this series. For the Rangers to pull off the same miracle LA had earlier in the playoffs, Henrik Lundqvist needed to be unstoppable. And in Game 4, he was exactly that, stopping 40 shots in a 2-1 Rangers win. With how well Lundqvist was playing, the Kings knew that if they wanted to score, they needed to get as much traffic to the net as possible. So, in period 1 of Game 5, LA throws one from the point with traffic in front, and after a mad scramble, Justin Williams makes it 1-0. As both teams started to settle in, one thing became clear. Henrik Lundqvist was stopping at least the first and likely the second shot on goal, but there was rebounds to be had. Being no stranger to resiliency, the Rangers used their special teams to take a 2-1 lead. First a power play goal by Kreider, and then a shorty at the end of the period by Brian Boyle. Despite a Rangers push, the Kings' strategy remained the same. Get in front of the eyes of Hank and drive the net with force. With more traffic in front, Lundqvist predictably stops the first puck off a ridiculous tip by Gaborik, but the trade deadline pickup buries the rebound to tie it all up at 2s. In poetic fashion between these two teams, we would require overtime. After getting a power play early into the overtime, the Rangers had the opportunity to strike gold.
Step on. Now San Luis with it. Gave it on over to McDonough. Drives. Hit the post with the
Just being inches away from forcing a Game 6, Henrik Lundqvist was once again asked to stand on his head. Repeatedly getting second and third chances, the Kings just couldn't get by the King himself. That brings us to this moment right here. Double OT with a little over 5 minutes left, and the Kings get a 3-on-2 rush the other way. In the play is winger Tyler Toffoli, Kyle Clifford, and defenseman and Game 7 hero Alec Martinez. Now, in any standard 3-on-2 play, the forward in the middle of the ice plays a crucial role. Their job without the puck is to drive the middle to force both D to back up and open up a lane for the puck carrier to either A, pass, or B, take a shot. This is a basic and fundamental strategy for 3-on-2 rushes in hockey. And for a Kings team that is built on straightforward, fundamental first hockey, it's a play that has worked for them consistently all postseason, especially against the Sharks. So as Martinez sends this to Clifford, he enters the zone, kicks it out to Toffoli, and drives the middle of the ice. However, there's a wrinkle in this play. With Rangers forward Matt Zuccarello coming back, Toffoli doesn't have an option for a pass. And considering that no one has been able to beat Lundqvist with a clean shot in this game, his best bet is to try and shoot for a rebound and hope someone picks up the change. After everything that these two teams have been through emotionally, mentally, and physically, the fact that they're both in this position is truly remarkable. Both of these teams have made history to get to this point. One team is on the verge of completing a fairy tale ending, while the other is trying desperately to avoid being on the wrong side of hockey history, with Father Time slowly closing in on their window. Despite both teams being on a path of destiny, only one can truly fulfill it, while the other wonders if this may be their last shot. After all the funny bounces and crazy what-ifs, it all comes down to these two teams and this one simple play.
Martinez in a 3